Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, the difference between laws and the legal system in India and in the United States. Both countries are democracies and both follow the rule of law, but their legal systems are quite work in quite different ways. These differences come from history, constitution, the structure of the court, rights, and legal culture. Let's talk about them step by step. First, let's talk about the origin of the legal system in both the countries. In India, while the colonial rule of British was there, they brought their own procedures, their courts, and their legal ethics to India. After independence in 1947 from the Britishers, India adopted most of the laws and continued with it. But USA, after independence in 1776, the US tried to develop their own legal systems independently because even uh, the system of legal procedures had not developed in UK that fruitfully, or that it was not that evolved. Second, let's talk about the constitution, how it is framed and made. India is said to have one of the longest constitution in the world. It talks about a lot of topics like the government structure, rights, administration, and even emergency powers of state and the union. But United States Constitution is much concise. It basically deals with two major topics. One is the structure of the government and fundamental rights. Because US Constitution is short, so many legal interpretations are developed by courts over time. But in India, the courts try to stay within the limit of the legal laws which are prescribed by the constitution. They try not to deviate from the text too much. Thirdly, let's talk about the federal structure both countries follow. Both the countries are federal in nature, but the federalism are different which is followed in United States and India. India follows a very strict federal nature, meaning the union has a lot of power over the states as compared to United States. In United States, the power with the states are very vast. Even the criminal laws could differ from state to state. In Indian Constitution, the uh, union holds a lot of power in matters like defense, national security, and major economic policies. So much so that during emergencies, state powers can be curtailed to a minimum, and the government of India, the union, could be given absolute power to control the state, as we had seen in the emergency of 75 under Indira Gandhi. Now let's move further to the fourth point of difference, that is the structure of the court. In India, Supreme Court of India is the superior court, under which comes the High Court, which are established in the state, and below it are the subordinate courts. The structure in India is very unified, and the buck ultimately stops with the Supreme Court. But though United States also has a similar structure, it has a federal court, but it becomes more complex because there are two parallel court systems, federal courts and state courts. US Supreme Court is the highest court, but states also have their own Supreme Courts. In US, cases may go through the federal court or the state court. It will depend on the issue which is being handled. And there's no sacrosanct uh, direction as to where the case will go if it is not depending on the issue and if it is a general issue. Next, we'll discuss the judicial review in both the countries. Both countries have the power of conducting judicial reviews of various decisions taken by the government or the legislation. In United States, judicial review was established by the famous case Marbury versus Madison. This case gave court the power to declare laws unconstitutional. In India, judicial review is also very strong. The Supreme Court can strike down a law if it is unconstitutional. The power was broadly strengthened and boldened after the case of Keshwanand Bharti versus State of Kerala. The case decided that though the constitution could be completely amended by the legislatures, but the basic structure of the constitution cannot be changed, on which India was brought into existence by the uh, freedom fighters after independence. Another important topic which every citizen should be aware of is fundamental rights. In United States, fundamental rights are listed in Bill of Rights, which protects freedom such as speech, religion, and the right to bear arms. In India, fundamental rights is described in Part 3 of the Constitution. These rights include right to equality, freedom, right against exploitation, freedom of religion, cultural and educational right, right to constitutional remedy. However, in India, the fundamental rights are often subjected to uh, reasonable restrictions such as public order, morality, and national security. But in United States, rights like freedom of speech have very narrow restrictions. And usually, the freedom of speech is curtailed by the social understanding of a class. Like there are certain words which are understood by the society that it might cause some friction, so they are not used in public. Next difference which we should concern ourselves with is the system of jury, also known as the jury system. It is the same thing. So in India, the jury system was abolished after the case of very famous case KM Nanavati versus State of Maharashtra. In this case, it was decided that jury could be influenced by public opinion and media trials. But in United States, jury system still exists, and in many criminal trials, they involve a jury, and jury is the one who decide uh, whether the accused is guilty or not. Jury is basically a set of ordinary people who are considered upholding citizens in the society, and they are called for jury duty. Next topic we are going to talk about, which is the eighth topic in the row, is death penalty. Both countries broadly still have death penalty as a punishment under their rules and legal system. But in India, it is described that death penalty can only be awarded in rarest of the rare case. It depends on the situation and the context. But in United States, it also vary on the state, like which state you have committed the crime in. Not you, like the accused or whosoever. Some states have completely abolished the death penalty, but some states still follow it. Next, we are going to talk about how both countries have different litigation culture. In United States, we see that citizens very frequently sue companies, government, hospitals, schools, etc., etc., for any wrongdoing. And civil damages in US can be pretty high. But in India, the culture of suing does not exist. But India has developed a system which is called public interest litigation (PIL), which can be filed by anyone uh, for bringing any reform, even if that person is not directly affected. This helps court address issues like environmental protection, prison reforms, and human rights. It is beneficial for the society as a whole. We'll talk about the speed and accessibility of justice. In United States, the cases get resolved pretty fast as compared to India. In India, It might take years, even decades, for some cases to come to their conclusion. The basic reasons which we can point out for delay in cases in India, for resolution of cases in India, is shortage of judges, complex procedure, and frequent adjournments. So it is, if judges, there are solutions we can talk about and further. So in conclusion, we can say that the Indian judicial system and US judicial system, though the countries have a federal structure, and but their legal structure is very different. India has a long constitution, but the resolving of cases takes a lot of time, and in US it takes less time to resolve the cases. Also, the value of society also depends on when you're dependent so much on the judiciary for your fundamental rights and other rights. It is important that we take into account the other country's laws and how it is framed and how it is worked upon, and try to better our own. If you have any point, please feel free to comment. Thank you for listening.